Good evening, 6:30. Welcome to the City Council meeting for the Lake Forest City Council. Today is March 20th, 2018. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Mayor Pro Tem Leah Basil, her young son is very sick tonight, so she won't be able to make it with us tonight. There was no closed session. And so we'll begin with the invocation. The invocation will be led by Chaplain Jeff Hetchell from the Orange County Fire Authority. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
God, thank you for these women who lead us, who struggle, like all of us do, to be here, to get everything in line so that they can serve us. Would you give them back this time? And would you give them wisdom tonight as they have so many important things to discuss? And we ask that you would bless the great city of Lake Forest, as it is a place that people come from all over America. We thank you for that. It's in your powerful name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you for your service to our county.
You're welcome.
The Pledge of Allegiance was to be read by the Mayor Pro Tem, but we always defer to the Boy Scouts when they're here. And Troop 604, I understand, has got someone here tonight. Okay, Nicholas. So if you'd come down and be kind enough to lead us in the pledge, that would be great.
Please stand. And please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job, buddy. Shake your hand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, Nicholas. Where is your troop, Nicholas?
They're at the Catholic Church in Santiago de Compostela.
Oh, okay, well, welcome. The report from the student. Sarah, is she here? Yeah, here she comes. It's El Toro High School Student Liaison. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Sarah Dahlstrom here reporting to you on the past and upcoming events at El Toro High School. In sports news, our boys varsity lacrosse team walked away with a win last week, defeating Clean Ruthin and Saints against, they won 15-2. Way to go, boys lacrosse. Sorry. In ASB news, last week we had our annual Clashes of Classes week and pep rally, where each grade participates in spirit days, class competition, and dances, and hopes to gain the most points and win Clash of the Classes. This year, the seniors took the victory, beating the freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. Way to go, seniors. In other news, it's been a pretty moving week here at El Toro for the juniors and seniors. This week we started our Every 15 Minutes program, raising awareness for the dangers of teenage drinking and driving. The first day of the program was yesterday, where juniors and seniors gathered outside our school on Toledo Parkway to experience a mock scene put on by our students of an actual drinking and driving accident. Today, we had was day 2 of Every 15 Minutes program, where we gathered in the gym to debrief about what we witnessed yesterday, as well as listen to a guest speaker talk on the subject and listen to students speak as well. Tomorrow is the last day of our program, where students will participate in a resource fair up on the field and participate in helpful activities, have any questions answered, as well as gain closure from the past 2 emotional days we've had. On behalf of El Toro, we'd like to say thank you to all of the organizations that have been involved in making this program possible this week. That's all I have for tonight. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great evening, and as always, go Chargers.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
We're now at the public comment section for the evening. Madam Clerk. Oh, do we have the video?
Welcome to the City of Lake Forest City Council meeting. We are happy you are here to participate in this important city function. If you have not done so already, Please take an agenda to follow along and see.
Buffering.
Okay, well, I'll fill in and read it. At this time, members of the public may address the City Council regarding any items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. No action may be taken on items not listed on the agenda unless authorized by law. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person and an overall time limit of 30 minutes for the public comment section portion of the agenda. Any person wishing to address the City Council on any matter, whether or not it appears on this agenda, is requested to complete a request to speak form available at the door. It's actually not at the door, it's over there to the right. You're right. The completed form is to be submitted to the city clerk. Actually, it doesn't go to the city clerk, it goes to this guy right there. And we need to edit this. But at least I'm functioning, unlike the videotape. It's submitted to Carlo over here prior to an individual being heard by the City Council. When you are called to speak, you will see 3 lights. The first being green. When you have 30 seconds left, the light will turn to yellow, and when your time has expired, the light will turn to red. At that time, your public comment period has ended, and the council requests that you conclude your comments and save any further general comments for a future meeting. Madam Clerk, have there been any requests to speak?
Yes, Your Honor. Mike Black, followed by Mark Amendola.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Mike Black. I've been a resident of Lake Forest for about 12 years now. It seems like every time I come here, I'm coming up here and having something to say. I don't know whether I get hurt or not, but I want to tell a little story first to kind of going to lead you into what my point is I'm trying to make tonight. When I was still living in Lake Forest, we lived in a townhouse community. It was very nice. We paid a lot of money in association dues every month, and we were really proud to live there. One day we all found something in our mailbox. It was a letter along with a ballot and instructions to look at the east wall, stucco wall coming into the complex, where they had put 5 or 6 different color choices because they were planning to paint the outside of all the buildings. They wanted our opinion. They wanted us to vote on what color choices they were going to do. Well, my wife's niece's husband, who lived next door to us, was on the board of directors for the Homeowners Association, and he took me aside one day. I said, I want to show you something. He took me to the storage supply shed, maintenance shed, whatever you want to call it. He opened the big garage door and he said, looky there. There sat over 500 gallons of paint that had already been purchased before they even sent out the letters asking us to pick a color. They had already made up their mind. So the point I'm trying to make is, people come here, you thank people for coming here to give input, make suggestions, make requests. I don't want to believe that you people have already made up your minds before hearing what people have to say. You impressed me on your first day as mayor, the day you took office, because there was a lady come up here and she was talking about falling down and getting injured and not being able to get anybody to return her phone calls or get anything done about getting the park taken care of where she was hurt. You got out of your chair and you come out here, you gave her a card, you put your hand on her shoulder, and you did what I think was a great thing. You comforted her. You guys need to start comforting each other. We waste a lot of time in here with infighting, and people come up here, some people come up here, not all of them, some people come up here with one objective, and that is to throw fire on the fuel, fuel on the fire, and try to get things more chaos than they already are. We got people attacking our police department. We've got people attacking Mr. Voight. We've got people, I've never heard Scott Voight say a bad word about anybody up there, but I've heard it from others. And we can't have that. We have to get along. It's like, right now, you guys are 5 playing cards. You're the hand we've been dealt. You're our council. Okay? It'd be nice to be able to just throw away the cards we don't want and take the ones we want, but we can't. We've got you 5 people, and you guys need to work together, support us, make things happen for this city that's in our best interest, not in your own. If you don't like him or she don't like you, that's you get along, work with each other. Work to help us make this a better place to live, so I can continue to try to say I'm proud that I moved from Seal Beach to Lake Forest. But lately I've been kind of wondering if that was a good move at all, because every time I come here, it seems like there's just more and more dissension and infighting, and I don't like it. I don't think any of the people here like it, so.
Thank you for your
time.
comments. Next.
Mark Amendola, followed by Sunny Morper.
Welcome.
My name is Mark, and last Friday morning, I was part of our veterans group, was invited to speak at the Mayor's Prayer Breakfast in Irvine, which was awesome. As an Army officer, I had served with 2nd Battalion, 1st Special Forces Group during the first Gulf War. It was an awesome time to be with the vets. We were invited there, and it was all the mayors, and as many that could be there. And we had the mayors of Irvine, Costa Mesa, Newport Beach, Orange, Anaheim, Tustin, Laguna Niguel, Mission Viejo, San Clemente, Rancho Santa Margarita, Laguna Woods, and Aliso Viejo. And those were the mayors that attended. I understand conflicting schedules and everything else. It would have been great to have you there. We were really hoping you would be. But I do think Councilman Voigt, he was there. He wasn't able to be on stage because that was just the mayors, but he was recognized in the audience, and thank you for being there, sir, and that's pretty awesome. What I wanted to let you know, sir, is a fellow councilman from Laguna Woods, since Councilman Voigt knows who it is, shared with us that he is going through serious cancer surgery tomorrow. Have his entire right ear removed. That's dramatic surgery, and it was, I was glad that he shared that with us. It gave us a chance. We actually prayed for him and his family. My hope, Mr. Mayor, I know this is probably something that can't be done on an official level, but at a personal level, we do have a local councilman going through radical surgery a few hours from now. So it'd be awesome if something could be done. And I do thank you, Councilman Boyd, for joining us in prayer for him and his family. I'm sorry, I don't remember the gentleman's last name. Mr. Boyd, do you remember what his last name is? Okay, and so that part is good. Hopefully something can be done. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. And as a final note, if I have to go, I like what was mentioned about working as a team. Colonel, you know as well as I do as officers in the Army, the importance of team. We may know that a little bit better than others here. And you guys do awesome stuff when things are clicking. And I know there's a challenge with the center possibility. And I don't think this is the time. I don't think it warrants that jump. When we had challenges with subordinates, we didn't jump to UCMJ action. We worked it out at the lowest possible level. Don't get me wrong. If there's a habitual action that occurs over and over again, I'm right with you to clear the ranks. This isn't what we're dealing with. This is a one-off, and none of you lose your First Amendment right to talk from the heart just because you're sitting behind the table. So again, I share that with you. And again, if we could do something for the councilmen in Laguna Woods, that would be awesome. You guys have a great evening.
Yeah. Thank you. I usually attend about 10 to 15 hours a week of meetings and events such as those. So if I don't make it to your event, I don't want you to take it as anything personally. No, I know. I'm just saying my wife begins to talk about just what are you doing that night and just what's going on here, that you're away every night at meetings and events. So I try to do as many as I can, but I just can't make it to every meeting. Who's the next speaker?
Sunny Morper, followed by Lori Plans.
And that gentleman's name was Joe Rainey. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your prayers.
All right, so we could adjourn the meeting and in honor of him and prayer for him. Yeah, okay. Sorry, Sonny, go ahead.
That's all right. Good evening. My name is Sonny Morper. My wife and I are 40-year residents of the Sun and Sail Club, better known as Lake Forest 2. I happen to be on the board of directors again this year. But the reason that I'm here is really just a citizen with a concept that I wanted to share with you, and that is one that I presented to the Park and Recreation Committee last week after having talked with my board of directors informally the week before. Basically, the concept is, and I hope that you have a copy of the map. I gave one to, thank you. It's actually a Google map, if you will, of the area at Lake Forest Drive and Serrano. And it's a concept. It's this, that if the area that crosses Lake Forest Drive at Geronimo was closed off by a barricade, and then several hundred feet farther toward Bake, another barricade was established on July 4th, that area could be a nice area for citizens all over the city of Lake Forest to come and watch the fireworks. As you look across the lake that's on that particular picture, you can see that there is a white area. That really is the concrete stage area of our association. The barge, where I printed the words barge loading, that's done during the day, where the pyrotechnic company that we've contracted with again this year for $20,000 will be setting up the barge. They tow it out to the area about 150 feet or so in front of that stage area, and that's where the fireworks go off. What I'm proposing is to set up a free area for citizens of the city to come and view the fireworks. Many can't get on the property because, first of all, they're not members of the association, and if they are guests, their member has to pay for their entry. We can't make the area free where you see the lawn area because ATF and others say if you're serving alcohol on the grounds, you can't just have people come in. That's why I suggest the off-site area of Geronimo Road be considered by the City Council. And I did speak with, as I mentioned, the Park and Recreation Committee who appeared to think it was a great idea and that I should come and present it to you tonight. That's it.
Okay, thank you. I did speak with the chairman of the Parks and Recreation Committee, and they're going to, if they haven't already, approach the city manager and talk about what the costs and the logistics are. So personally, I think it's a great idea, and we're going to pursue it. Next.
Lori Plans.
Yep, Councilman
Sorry.
Roberts.
I may have missed it at the beginning, but were you speaking on behalf of the board or as an individual, or just as an individual? Okay.
Goodwill gesture. They're much aware of it because I spoke with them immediately following the meeting the other night. They suggested that I come to the city because it's strictly city property.
Okay.
Sonny, that is a great idea, so thank you so much for bringing it to us.
So just so that I understand, so people wouldn't be on the grass itself in your image, they'd be on the street there on Geronimo. That's the, okay. Got it. Understood. Thanks.
Just one question I had would be, what about the residents there that live on the birds section there? How did they get to their homes if that Geronimo's go over to Bake by Muirlands?
Geronimo would be fully open and their exit on Rush all the way down to Bake.
Oh, thank you.
Next.
Lori Plans, followed by Heiko Peschel.
Hi, my name is Lori Plans, and I am a day late and $1 short because I'm here to propose a solar initiative for Lake Forest. But I happen to overhear these two gentlemen, and I guess they're from Lancaster, and some of the materials that I have in there are the ordinance that they passed for January 1st of this year for a zero net energy ordinance, and there's another example of Santa Monica. Anyway, I wasn't sure how we would get this ball rolling, so I started a intention for a petition, which is probably the long way to do it, but I am so happy to hear that you guys have on item 14, and I hope this proceeds expediently and we get this done. And as the gentleman mentioned, hopefully after the feasibility study, within a year, we could be Solar City too. So I just wanted to thank all of you for initiating that, and I hope it gets put forth. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lori, for the work you did in promoting this yourself. Thank you.
Heiko Peschel, followed by Bob Holtzclaw.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council folks, staff. Heiko Peschel, resident of the neighborhood since 1960, so I was here ahead of most of you. Anyway, back to the normal old things, same things, different time. Still like to encourage you to look at the continuation of Portola Parkway into Irvine. Yes, I know you're going to go through some farmland, possibly even some Nature Conservancy land, but the Irvine Nature Conservancy is usually pretty good about that stuff. I'm a docent there. That's one thing. Another thing, after the last council meeting, I attended the Parks and Rec Committee meeting, and there I learned that there are at least some plans of putting dog runs into some of the different parks. After having listened to the folks from Montberry, who lived right next to that park, express their opposition to anything like a dog run in that little park, which is pretty much a static park. It doesn't do much. I'd like to suggest that the council and Parks and Recreation, before they consider anything like that, actually talk to the people who live closest to it. It doesn't matter if you have 500 people in an area, but if the 10 or 20 houses that are right around the park are directly affected, they're not going to be very happy. I did notice later on the agenda tonight, you've got to have some restricted parking in areas that it's impossible to sweep now because of the parking. So I'm happy for you, and for me too, because I'm hoping that'll go through the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Bob Holtzclaw, followed by Sherry Anderson.
Hello, my name is Bob Holtzclaw. I'm your vector control appointee. Matter of fact, still everybody else here is, I've been ranger trained. I work for military intelligence, Vietnam War veteran. When I was over there, usually we saw some congressmen, and we got kind of a little suspicious, like, they love their city, they love their district. So we started looking up their backgrounds. We found out they got most of their donations from military contracts and corporations that dealt with the military. Hopefully this is the same thing that happens here, where we get people voting 100% for contractors that build homes, and they smile at you also and shake your hand. That's all I got to say on that. Now let's go to vector control. Vector control, we've had only one for the year complain about rats. We had 51 actual problems with pools that were unattended and they had to treat. So, and I know Foothill and Portola Hills has definitely a rat problem. My daughter last year killed 10 rats in her backyard. So we definitely do have a rat problem. Look for droppings and everything else in your backyard. I left some brochures back by the coffee machine, and I hope everybody takes one. And, this is what we're going to do. We had a HOA meeting today, and it was a great success. And we had vector control, Laura Young there, and she gave a little speech about vector control to all the HOAs, and she thought it was just great, and I thought it was too. For now on, I got vector control. They mailed me out a list of everything that happens in the city, so we know exactly what's going on, and I think this is great. So we have early contact. And there's always something from vector control that we can talk about. Okay, take care. Now, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Do you know there's a rat who lives right outside the front door here? He's been living there for about 5 years.
I saw him run.
Yeah, okay. All right. Could we do something about him? Yeah. Next.
Sherry Anderson, followed by John Bush.
And he's a fat rat. He's been there for a while.
Okay, I have two concerns tonight. First, I would like to open a discussion on following federal law and not being a sanctuary city. I would be interested in hearing the Sheriff's Department's opinion on keeping the residents safe. The second is about the horrible contract with the high kill pound. I listened last week to the same old arguments from Councilman Robinson and Voights that led to the 10-year contract with OCAC. We just had an election, 74% of the residents voting for the recall, telling me they were not happy with the council votes. I recommend our council and those interested go back to the City Council video from July 24th, 2015, my first meeting. Discussion on animals started a little over halfway through the meeting. The meeting was full, as all the meetings have been when we discuss abandoned and lost pets. You'll hear from residents telling the council 2.5 years ago how horrible the county treats helpless pets, killing over 700 and 900 a month. We learned from Sharon Logan's lawsuit, they kill 97% of the stray cats and kittens and puppies under 8 weeks are labeled too young to live and killed. That is heartbreaking, and anyone that supports that does not love animals and does not respect their lives. But it's about pensions, according to Councilman Robinson. Watch Sharon Cody, who started the Mission Viejo shelter at least 25 years ago, remind you we are paying pensions for the county, including 30 management positions and union workers. Watch the end of the video, and she stresses your numbers were wrong then, and they still are now. Like she said, if you want crappy service and really don't care about the residents or pets, then go with the county, which you did. Also watch the emergency management representative state our city is responsible for our residents, and many of us will not leave our homes without our pets. She states OCAC, 17 miles away, cannot help us. The representative from Best Friends, who's helping Los Angeles become a no-kill city, offered to help us. Up until you voted for the county contract, rescue groups from throughout the county offered to help. Laguna Hills and Rancho Santa Margarita said they wanted to work with us. After that meeting, I remember Councilman Voight stating they wouldn't even return his call. I'm sure they could tell that the 3 councilmen were going to vote against helping our pets. They now work with Mission Viejo. We need to get out of the OCA contract. That's what the residents want. You work for the county, for the city. You don't work for the county supervisors. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. City Manager, do you want to give her a brief account of what we've been doing in the last couple of weeks?
Certainly. Mayor and members of the council. So we were directed by the council to what our options are beyond the county contract. And so you directed us to send some letters out as an initial step. So we have sent letters out to Irvine, Mission Viejo, San Juan Capistrano, Costa Mesa, San Clemente, and Laguna Beach, asking about their interest in joining us in potentially a new program, having us join their program, or in the case of San Juan and Costa Mesa, having us create a joint program. So those letters have gone out. I have been in touch with a couple of those city managers to confirm they received the letters. We asked for a response within 3 weeks, and so we're still on that timeline. After those letters, we're directed to explore a feasibility study, and so staff is taking steps to create a scope of work and identify vendors for potentially sending that out. That will come back to the council once we have an answer from all of those cities. So you did ask us to take some interim steps to see what our options are.
And did we also send letters to the head of community services?
We did. We sent another additional letter to Dylan Wright, who is the Director of Community Services for the county, who does oversee animal services. And we asked for involvement in the selection of the new manager of Orange County Animal Control or Animal Care Services, as well as asked for the formation of an oversight committee to allow the public more input into those operations.
Okay, thank you. So we're pretty much doing everything we can do at this point. And we'll keep you apprised, and she's on it. Next.
John Bush, followed by Randy Johnson.
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome, John.
Thanks, Jim. How are you doing? I'm here because I've had a lot of citizens from the city ask me to speak and put some information out that's been kind of kept behind closed doors to them, and really want everybody to hear this. Number one, I'm not from the city. I've been here about 2 years, most of the time now. I began here at the first recall. I was on the recall campaign, collected signatures, in which I found at that point your resident Adam Nick, or past resident Adam Nick, paid for and paid me, paid everyone for that campaign. During that, as you know how that turned out, once that was over, I was contacted by Mr. Nick to come and work for his campaign. where I was paid as his campaign manager along with Leah Basil's campaign manager, and at the same time, I was the only officer on the project of the Good Citizens Against Dwight Robinson, all combined, and living in Mr. Nick's home at the time for 2 months, paid by him for this campaign. When that came down and he wasn't elected, he instantly asked me and hired me to run the recall campaign, in which I collected every single signature, with the exception of very few that the volunteers put out, and one circulator in which Mr. Nick paid directly. I lived at the hotel over here 4.5 months, ran every aspect of the campaign, with the exception of the first month where, because you have to validate signatures and things, having them ready to go ahead of time, where Mr. Gardner was the one who collected and validated all the signatures. And then when he had some back problems, I took that part over also and did the entire campaign. Ms. Clark, whose name was on the campaign, was very much out of it. Every decision basically on that campaign was made by Adam Nick, because he paid every dime of that campaign also directly to me. Over $160,000 that went to me, plus the money that went to other people. These things are a little important because not only has all that happened, there's a reason for it. The city, we can talk about it being bought and paid for. Mr. Cagley knows how his campaign was inserted into the funds on the recall campaign so that they didn't have to show any funds going to that, which Mr. Nick also paid for. Mr. Gardner also is very, very aware of all this, because we had several conversations in person and at his home when I picked up the paperwork to do the validating, not to mention emails that I have from him and Miss Basil, who I made very aware of the things that were going on and who was buying and paying for this city to be done. Mr. Nick spent a lot of money. My calculations are somewhere around $350,000 to $400,000 for the campaign and the 2 recalls. There are still things that have not come out yet.
Your time's up, John.
Okay, give me 1 second. Could I have 10 seconds? Okay. I just want to warn everybody in the city. The whole main outcome of this is to have 3 people on the city council that will vote for a very, very large settlement for one individual in the city who feels that he's owed money by the city because of Mr. Robinson, Mr. Hamilton, and Mr. Voigt's voting against something a few years ago.
Okay.
So when a big thing comes up, that if somebody wants over $1.5 million, please make sure that you don't let your city council vote on that.
Okay, thank you.
Randy Johnson.
Mike's. Welcome back. Long time.
How do I follow that? Good God. Okay, Randy Johnson making another guest appearance here, folks. And, of course, my civic duty. And what I want to do here is ask you for 2 requests. The first request is to bring item 16 to the top of the discussion calendar. Don't do it in the dead of night. Do it in the light of day, okay? While we're all here, not when there's 2 people in the audience. So please bring it forward. Number 2, the main reason I'm here for public comments is because of something very courageous that the Los Alamitos City Council did last night. I've submitted a written report to you about this, and let me read it. Last night, the Los Alamitos City Council voted 4-1 to approve the city ordinance to challenge SB 54, the California Sanctuary State California Values Act that aids, abets, and protects criminal foreign aliens incarcerated in California jails by means of using state law SB 54 to forbid state agents from cooperating with federal immigration authorities to execute the deportations of criminal aliens to their countries of origin. As a result, these foreign criminal aliens are being released back into our communities to perpetuate more crimes on our citizens and or our property. Furthermore, pursuant to AB 450 and SB 54, State Attorney General Xavier Becerra has warned California business owners not to cooperate with federal immigration authorities or allow them on their business premises to investigate federal immigration or labor law violations in absence of an official warrant or otherwise subject themselves to $10,000 in state fines and prosecution. Okay, and I have attached this order to this report. And also from the Orange County Register, there's an article that I submitted as well. Essentially, this means that business owners who comply with federal statutes are in violation of state law or vice versa per the State Attorney General. This is an awful catch-22 predicament that places our Lake Forest business owners in great peril either way they turn. I expect the Lake Forest Council to support them either through resolution or bringing your own ordinance before the city and to do the same thing that Los Alamitos has done. That's a very courageous act. We need people to stand up for the rights of American citizens, for God's sakes, for once, and not protect criminal foreign aliens. And any of you are comply with your sacred oath that you took when you took office, that's exactly what you will do. And I know that Basil, Gardner, and Robinson displayed gutlessness when it came to the district elections, and you bent over for this extortionist attorney, for district elections, after your demographer that you hired told you that we did not have a racially polarized community. You did it anyway. I expect you to act on this. I expect you to come forth with a resolution supporting Los Alamitos and to do it tonight.
Time's up.
Madam Clerk, just on that point, he passed out a newspaper article that, did you guys, the rest of the council get the newspaper?
It's in your mail.
It's in the white packet.
Okay. Thank you, Randy. I will be making an agenda that we follow that.
We've had no further requests from the public.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Do we have no Facebook? No? Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I know you have other things you could do with your evening, and we do appreciate your coming. We particularly appreciate those of you who come here and make public comments. I need to remind you that just because someone comes here and make a comment doesn't necessarily mean it's true. That this is America and the First Amendment, and you're entitled to your 3 minutes before us. I'm going to proceed on the agenda. I would like to make a notice that item 16, which was originally moved by Mayor Pro Tem Basil, I'm going to postpone it till next time because she's not here tonight. So if any of you who are waiting particularly for 16, you can probably leave, but by all means stay. This is your city.
Mr. Mayor, we do have speaker cards for item 16 this evening, if you'd like to hear them.
Well, yeah, I would say it's up to them. To some extent, that's kind of discontiguous, but if you're here and it would be an imposition to have you come back, then I'm happy to hear them, and happy to hear them if my counsel doesn't mind first. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem hearing them first, but I think one of our agenda items, the waiving of reading ordinances and resolutions, does that affect anything? I mean, does she have to read anything, or? Okay, so then we could take it out of turn, no problem. I just wanted to make sure that from a process perspective, we didn't need to do anything there.
Okay, hearing no objections, then we'll listen to the comments if you want to make them on item 16, and then we'll proceed on the regular consent calendar.
So speaking on item 16, Mike Black, followed by Randy Johnson.
Good evening again.
Welcome again.
The only reason I actually requested permission to speak on this item is because I didn't think I'd have enough time to say everything I wanted to say a while ago when I had public comments. But as Mark said when he come up here a while ago, and you've mentioned several times, Mr. Mayor, that you emphasize a lot about the First Amendment and how we all have that right because our forefathers gave us that right. That right also extends to you. Just because you're sitting on that side of that table doesn't mean you don't have First Amendment rights. When somebody comes up here and attacks one of you or all of you, as people have done with Mr. Voights, come up here and attacked his integrity, called him a liar, and then when he, for lack of better words, he kind of lost it and he attacked back. I mean, I don't think he was being, any malice was meant by it or anything. He had his fill, and he said what he believed, and what a lot of us believe. I think the man is being paid to be here. I really do. I guess that's really all I had to say. Just keep in mind that you have a right to speak your mind too. And so if somebody comes up here and attacks you, I say by all means attack back. You don't hold it in. Let them know what you think.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Randy Johnson.
Welcome back.
Randy Johnson here, and you know me, folks. I'm very nonpartisan. I've taken shots at all these people, except for Mr. Cagley. He just hasn't been there long enough, okay? At the same time, I've given all of you compliments, and you have to admit that. I've complimented each one of you people. I don't play party politics. I never have. I'm honest. I'm genuine to the heart, okay? And I'm here tonight with a heavy heart, I have to say, okay? Because of this problem we have here with the censure, this is childish behavior on part of the council. I mean, it's not like I'm even watching adults anymore. This is vindictive politics. It's vindictiveness. And I thought we were over this when the recall ended. I said, oh my God, I said, now we can move on to regular business and improve the city. They can get along and everything will end happily ever after, okay? And what's happened? We're back to it again. We're back to it again, folks. You're backbiting, you're going after each other, okay? This is absolutely reprehensible. And I'm so embarrassed of my council. And I thought for once we could move on. We could move on and be a great city. Now that Mr. Hamilton is gone, it's done and over with, now we can move on. And what do? They go back to it again. And this is vindictive politics, and we know what it's about. We're all adults. It's because of what happened to Mr. Nick. And let's face it, Mr. Nick paid for your seat, Mr. Cagley. You know that, sir. You got to be honest, sir. You're a career Army veteran. Okay? That seat costs like over $400,000 that you're sitting in. All right? How are you going to vote tonight? And how many times have I criticized people and people have shot back at me? Nothing was done to them. I've taken a lot of shots at people at the city council, and people said things to me, but nothing was done to them. All of a sudden, and I have to admit, Mr. Henderson comes up here, and he really goes after Voights. I'm back there, and the hair on the back of my neck is standing up, and it would be a superhuman thing not to say something back. I wouldn't be able to do it if I was sitting up there and people took shots at me like that. I wouldn't be able to do that, folks. I just wouldn't, okay? Let's move on. Let's bury the hatchet. I could write up letters to censor you, Gardner, and I could Leah too. Do you want me to do that? Is that what you want me to do? Do you want me to turn around and write up letters to censor you? Then we can have 2 more censures hearings? Do you want that to happen? Let's bury the hatchet, sir. Let's forgive and forget. Let's move on as a city.
Time's up.
We've had no further requests, Your Honor.
Okay, consent calendar. First item is the warrant register.
Move consent calendar.
Have a second?
I just want to recuse myself from a Neves Landscape vote on that particular item as it pertains to Serrano Creek Park. Things on page 21. Other than that, I can support the rest of the item. So can I vote on it and just recuse on that one part? Okay, great.
Okay, was that a second? Oh, you had the second? Okay, vote, please.
Someone to tag Leah's. No, Leah's.
Oh, what do you... I know, it says yes, no, or abstain. She's neither one.
The abstain's fine.
Oh, she's abstaining? Okay.
That motion carries with Mayor Pro Tem Basil absent from the dais.
She's probably watching us now. The rest of the consent calendar, items 2 through 11, all matters listed under this section of the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or staff request specific items be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Have there been any requests from the public to remove any consent items?
Yes, Your Honor. Item number 6.
Number 6, okay. And from the council?
I just have some brief comments on item 4 and item 7. So we'll pull those.
Okay. So that means, oh, and I'm going to comment on 5. Okay, that leaves 4. That leaves
2, 3.
2, 3, 8, 9, 10, 11.
That's it.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll move all those numbers just
Second.
stated by Mayor.
Second.
Second, okay. Vote, please. And that brings us, oh, I can vote again. Can't she just do a voice vote so I don't have to do this again?
That motion carries with Mayor Pro Tem Basil absent from the dais.
Item number 4, I believe pulled by Councilman Robinson.
Yes, just briefly appreciate the treasurer's report. As always, we're in great fiscal shape. Moving forward, I know that we're going to start spending quite a bit. We're already starting to here. And I think that the paragraph that we have is just a little too general for the average resident that might be reading. So I'm wondering if we might be able to put a little bit of detail in that, where it says something like normal operating expenses and capital improvement project expenditures. So if we could put a little detail just for some of the big dollar ticket items, like in this warrant register, I know we had $1.3 million for the parking structure in the warrant register, so that'll, if that hasn't hit us in this one, it hits us in the next one. I don't know how it all.
What we could do is we'll add a paragraph right there talking about the bigger expenditures coming for the next 18 months are going to be the Civic Center. So we'll add a paragraph talking about those expenditures, and that'll break it out for the citizens to be able to see what we're spending on the Civic Center, and then just regular operating expenditures.
Great. I've never had a resident question a treasurer's report at all, and I had one contact me this week and say, hey, it looks like cash is starting to drop. What's going on in the city? I thought you guys were in great shape. So I had to explain it, and I just thought, okay, if there's more out there that are reading it, then I think it could be a good addition. So,
all right.
And no one ever has any questions when cash is rapidly increasing, but when it's decreasing, that's where the questions pop up.
Yeah, we'll explain that a little bit more, and just so everyone knows, cash will be dropping. Probably, over the next 18 months, cash will drop probably down to 80 million, 90 million, because we're gonna be spending it on the Civic Center.
Yep. So it built up for that purpose, and now it's going to be spent. And so I just want to make sure people are aware and they're not thinking that we're going hog wild here. So with that, I will move the item.
Second that.
Vote, please.
That motion carries with Mayor Pro Tem Basil absent from the dais.
Okay, item number 5. I just wanted to say that it's a pleasure to see us doing that and doing those reports on a quarterly basis. It's very informative. And in fact, I learned a lot of stuff I wasn't otherwise aware of and just probably wouldn't have been aware of had we not had the report. So I thank my colleagues who are giving us reports, even on the library committee that I sat on torturously for 3 years. So thank you very much. With that, I'll move the item.
Second.
That motion carries with Mayor Pro Tem Basil absent from the dais.
That brings us to item number 6, the draft of the CDBG expenditure plan.
Jackie Mark, followed by Andrew Nero.
And just, City Manager, before she starts, just to remind us, this is basically the announcement of how the staff is recommending we spend the money, that in fact tonight we're not making a motion to spend the money, but simply receiving the report as to how they think we should spend the money.
Yes, tonight what we're doing is presenting the action plan for the upcoming year, which includes what the staff believes is a good spending plan for the dollars we project to be allocated. So tonight we're asking for your approval to post this for public comment for 30 days. This will come back to you on May 1st. We will report any comments that we do receive, and at that point we would make a recommendation that it be adopted and transmitted back up to HUD.
So there's time between now and May 1st in which some of these figures may be based on the reports tonight or subsequent?
Potentially, yes.
Okay, thank you. Please, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Jackie Mark. I'm the Outreach and Advocacy Manager for Alzheimer's Orange County. You do have packets in front of each of you that just gives a little information on programs and services that we offer here locally. And just wanted to ask that you do approve the consent to item number 6 to move forward some wonderful organizations that serve our community. Alzheimer's Orange County is a first-time applicant, and we are requesting support for our South County Adult Day Services, which was started over 20 years ago by AgeWell Senior Services, a community partner here tonight as well. And in June 2016, Alzheimer's Orange County assumed operations of South County Adult Day Services, which allowed us to qualify for community development block grants, which is why we are a first-time applicant. We continue to flourish in a new remodeled facility located in Laguna Woods, and wanted to share with you that between South County Adult Day Services and Alzheimer's Orange County, we provide a combined 50 years of dedicated service to the local community. This new relationship is what's new, not the program itself. And so we just look forward to working with your staff here. Childhood Home is in Lake Forest, so it's happy to be advocating on behalf of our local residents. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, we ask that you approve consent item number 6 so that we can continue to serve the wonderful residents of Lake Forest. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for joining the list of people.
Andrew Nero.
If you're not already aware and you're in a nonprofit and you service people in our community, you can go on our website, lakeforestca.gov, and find out about the community block grants. And next year, you can come back for the first time as well. So, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Andrew Nero. I am the program coordinator for Camino Health Center. I'd first off like to thank you for your many years of support to our organization. Camino Health Center is a nonprofit community health center that provides affordable, quality primary health care to the underserved in South Orange County. We are a federally qualified health center with a board of directors that consists of service professionals. We offer services in the areas of medical, dental, behavioral health, a women, infants, and children WIC nutritional program, and we're looking to add optometry services later this year. We now have 3 clinics in the cities of Lake Forest, San Juan Capistrano, and San Clemente. The newest site, our Lake Forest Clinic, allows Lake Forest residents easier access to our services by having a clinic located in the city in which they reside. In fiscal year 2017, 10% of Camino Health Center patients were from the city of Lake Forest. 91% of these individuals were found to be in the low-income category. Most recently, in fiscal year 2017, we provided 4,245 visits to 1,473 Lake Forest residents. This represents an increase from the 1,234 individuals seen in fiscal year 2016. The CDBG funding we seek from the City of Lake Forest will be used to offset the rent expenses associated with our Lake Forest site. Thank you for considering to continue to fund Camino Health Center.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I just wanted to say that I've heard from people who use your services lots of good reports.
Thank you.
So thank you for providing good services.
And I'd like to say that I visited your health care, and it's a wonderful new location. We're thrilled to have it in Lake Forest, closer to home. And I want to say, give a shout out to Jackie. Jackie, you're just such a great advocate for those that are growing older, and more gracefully with your help. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We've had no further requests.
And again, if you belong to a nonprofit and you serve Lake Forest residents, please go up and check at lakeforestca.gov. Let's vote on
staff recommendation.
Staff recommendation.
Second that.
That motion carries with Mayor Pro Tem Basil absent from the dais.
Item number 7, discussion of Palmwood Drive traffic study, pulled by, was that Councilman Robinson? Yeah.
So a few months ago, I can't remember exactly when, we had some residents that came talking about some issues there. My boys and I went out on Palmwood and a few of the other adjacent streets and picked up some trash one weekend day, and I just wanted to kind of see what was going on in the neighborhood there, and it was good to see. So I hadn't been in that area of town very much since I moved out of it about 15 years ago, and so definitely they were having some some parking issues, and there was a fair amount of trash that needed to be cleaned up. So my question regarding all this is just more with the enforcement expectations that residents might have versus what's going to be done. And I think, so on the street sweeping side, I mean, what can we talk about what is actually going to happen there? I mean, we're going to put some signs up, there'll be some prohibitive parking, but is someone going to get a ticket? I mean, how frequently is this going to happen? I know we've talked a little bit in the past about the fact that in some cities there's like an officer that follows the street sweeping truck. I'm guessing that that's not what we're going to be doing, but that's the reason for my question. So what kind of enforcement should we be expecting at this point?
Mayor and members of the City Council, once the streets are approved for enforcement with the street sweeper, then no, we're not following the street sweeper per se. However, with the dedicated parking enforcement officer that we have now, they're able to hit those areas more frequently. Currently, the municipal code calls for a block of time, usually a 4-hour block of time, so whether the street sweeper has come or gone, they can get over during that block of time and cite vehicles that are there. So I don't know if that's exactly the answer you're looking for. We're not following a street sweeper around. We've done that in the past and went away from it, but there's no plans to do that again.
I think maybe, City Manager, if you could fill him and Councilman Robinson in on some of the things that are happening with the street sweeping.
Mayor and members of the council, one of the things we're working on is a longer-term look at our street sweeping program, and so Public Works and myself have been in contact with Mission Viejo because we're talking to them about doing a joint RFP to see if we can get some cost savings. Their contract is up 12 months after ours is up, so we're going to come back and recommend we extend our current contract so we can get them on the same schedule and then look at issuing that together. But part of that effort also is to look at what would the pricing be if we were to have a program where we had someone follow our sweeper. So that's kind of our long-term goal, is to research all of that and bring it back to the council to present next year.
Okay, so when you say that, you're talking about kind of like more of a code enforcement type of following rather than a sheriff's department? Or?
It probably wouldn't be code enforcement, but it would be civilian. It wouldn't be through the sheriff's department. It would either be privatized or we'd look at bringing on employees. That's part of what we're going to evaluate.
Okay. All right. Well,
right, but I think our plan presently is to use our dedicated parking control officer. Their shift does align with all of these areas that have parking restrictions, and they'll go from area to area, but it won't be someone following the sweeper.
Exactly, and I just want to make sure that the expectation from residents, they know kind of what we're doing so that they don't think, they're not expecting something more significant than what we're going to be providing. I think that they're all going to be pleased that we're doing something, and I just want to make sure they understand it. The second part of my questioning here is in relation to where we expect the cars to go. So we solve one problem, and proverbial put a finger in this hole and another one pops open. And so, we have that with permit parking. So kind of what do we expect, what kind of outreach has been occurring with respect to some of the probably, I'll say, complexes that are perceived to be the problem, even though they might not be?
Yes, and thank you, and I'd like to just introduce or reintroduce Dave Rogers, our traffic engineering manager. We did some testing out there of that very thing to find out what happens as part of our process of going through it, and Dave can give some details to what we did.
Right. With a street of that type, with the numbers of vehicles on there, we recognize that if we just posted it all at the same time on the same day, we would likely have movement of vehicles into the neighborhoods, which was what we were trying to avoid. So as part of this process, we did a alternate side, alternate day test and did counts as part of that. And based on the results of those studies, it does appear that if we used that approach, which is what we're recommending tonight, that the total number of cars on either day would fit on the other side. And so we're expecting relatively minimal intrusion into the neighborhoods, but we will have to monitor that as part of the process.
And have there been any pitfalls with the alternate side that we've seen in other cities where there's some confusion about how that's all working, or is it just kind of birds of a feather? One starts, that you see 6 cars on one side and everyone says, oh, it must be today.
I think like anything, it'll be a learning curve, and it'll be something we'll work with the Sheriff's Department closely on to make sure the word is out there. We already have been in touch with the multifamilies in the areas to try and let them know, some of this is coming. I'm optimistic that we'll get to where we want to be, but we do have a backup plan through this one, and both for Osterman, a backup plan where they would authorize the city to extend those restrictions within the community. But we wanted to try this first. This will be our first attempt here. I've used it before in my previous life, and it worked quite well. So I have some confidence that I think it'll work well here too.
Great. Well, thank you very much. And I had the same questions for 8, but I wasn't expecting anything to change. They were just questions. So thank you very much. I appreciate the report and all the comments.
Yeah, I thought, considering how brief that was on a test, I thought that was pretty impressive. And it's the kind of thing where, over time, it will get better. So just to get those results initially, I thought was very hopeful. Of course, the best learning experience is a ticket. And but I suspect, when are we coming back with the renewal of the street sweeping contract? Like July, is it?
It expires June 30th, so we're in the process the next couple of meetings.
All right, so would we have an update on the street sweeping? No, okay. Or on the code enforcement element? By then, no, okay.
Well, Mayor, while we're on that, some of the other streets is there any plans and looking at other streets that we might be doing that, like Cherry or Orange, where those cars are being parked? And what's happening in many of these places where cars are parked in the same spot for day after day after day, we get a pile of dirt and debris next to the car that we're not able to get to and clean it. So this is a way to ensure that our streets get cleaned on both sides of the street. So have we been looking at other streets?
Yes, we have. In fact, we just got a request in yesterday from one of the HOAs up in Portola Hills to look at it. So we do it on a request basis for cars parked 72 hours and stuff. The Sheriff's Department will do a good job of enforcing that also.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's not only the street sweeping and getting the streets clean, but there are cars that are literally being left for weeks at a time, which are never get noticed. So by having the street sweeper, then we're able to know that at least on a weekly basis. So I think that will help with our parking problem as well. Too. It's just street sweeping is a big problem, and we're slowly but surely dealing with it.
I'll move the item.
Okay.
Staff recommendation.
Okay. Vote, please.
That motion carries with Mayor Pro Tem Basil absent from the dais.
Okay, that finishes our consent items, and we're moving on to this discussion. Action items. First item number 12, Municipal Code Amendment to the Appointment Process for Commissioners, submitted by the City Manager.
Mayor and members of the Council, we have a brief presentation from our Assistant to the City Manager, Carlo Tomaino.
Thank you, and good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. So in February, you modified your process to appoint commissioners to Park and Rec and the Planning and Traffic Commission, providing yourselves with the ability to appoint individual commissioners with the assent of one other City Council member. Staff worked with the City Attorney's Office to draft amendments to Title II of the Municipal Code, and the ordinance before you this evening effectuates the changes that you selected as part of your appointment method. In addition, staff also drafted a new City Council policy reflecting the application, review, and selection process going forward. Essentially, the City Clerk advertises the appointment opportunity to the community broadly, reviews the applications received to ensure that the interested parties meet certain statutory qualifications to serve on the Commission. That means that they're of a certain age, that they're residents of the community, and that they're registered voters. The city clerk then provides all qualified applicants to the entire city council for review, which provides their selection to the city clerk in writing, and the selected applicants then are formally appointed at a public meeting. At this time, in addition to introducing the ordinance for first reading, we're also seeking your concurrence regarding the city council policy. This concludes my brief presentation this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Have any questions, comments from the public?
No, Your Honor.
Questions, comments from the council? Isn't that great?
I do have a question. So we're going to be talking about traffic commission soon, so that'll be the first choice for all of us to appoint for traffic commission. So would that be rotating off year elections, so they would be following the election cycle of the person that was selecting them? So that will be going staggered into planning commission and park and recs too? I'm excited. We're in the process of setting forth our traffic and parking commission, so that'll be our first selections.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, so it's 5 people, so that's 5 selection. And are 2 of them going to be short-term? Or 3 of them going to be short-term appointments?
Yes, so the terms would match the council person that appointed them.
Okay, but capable of being reappointed. All right, does someone move?
Move the item, please.
Second? I'll second. Yeah. Please vote.
That motion carries with Mayor Pro Tem Basil absent from the dais.
Number 13, an ordinance establishing prima facie speed limits on Monarch Boulevard, Catalina, and Dimension Drive within the city of Lake Forest. Submitted by Director of Public Works.
And again, thank you, Mayor and council members. This item needs to be a discussion because it's introducing an ordinance. Tonight, staff's recommending the introduction of the ordinance to establish speed limits on Monarch, Catalina, and Dimension Drive. As you know, speed limits are set by state law. They have to be within 5 miles an hour of the 85th percentile of speed. So it's really set by the residents if you think about it that way. So tonight, we've completed the traffic and engineering study that's required. We've allowed time for it to normalize with the use of the residents out there. And the city, or staff's recommending that you establish Monarch and Catalina at 35 miles per hour and Dimension at 30 miles per hour. And with that, staff and Mr. Rogers is here to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions, comments from the audience?
No, Your Honor.
No? From the council?
Move staff recommendations.
Second?
That motion carries with Mayor Pro Tem Basil absent from the dais.
Number 14, award of a contract to California Choice Energy Authority for the preparation of a community choice aggregation feasibility study, submitted by City Manager. It's a lot to say.
Mayor and members of the council, I'd like to introduce our Economic Development Manager, Carlo Tomaino, who has a short report for you tonight.
Thank you. Good evening again, Mayor and members of the City Council. So last year, the City Council directed staff to retain a consultant to perform a feasibility study that would help inform decisions on whether to form a community choice aggregator, also known as a CCA. The purpose of the feasibility study is to determine the potential economic benefits of forming a CCA, understanding the operating cost and startup cost, and determining a potential governance structure. After issuing an RFP, reviewing proposals, and interviewing firms, staff recommends selecting California Choice Energy Authority to perform the feasibility study. CCEA has extensive experience in this area, having performed studies for various other local agencies. In addition, CCEA operates an existing CCA that was started in the city of Lancaster. Mr. Jason Cottle, who is the Deputy Executive Director of CCEA, is with us this evening to answer questions from the Council. If the City Council approves the contract this evening, the next step in this process is to execute a non-disclosure agreement with Southern California Edison. This would provide the necessary customer data for CCA to perform the study, and then we would be evaluating the outcome of that at a future City Council meeting. So this concludes my brief presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
City Clerk, questions, comments from the audience?
No, Your Honor.
Council?
Is the representative for California Choice Energy here today? Could maybe he come forward? Lancaster is in the house.
Yes.
So what is it besides soccer fields? You have urban area?
The Trev will have to help me with that one. It's a moniker that was open spaces and urban places, or something.
Urban
like
places.
that.
And so, plus someone that's we're moving towards this, and a lot of people in the audience and online may want to know, why are we doing this? I know for a fact that what we've seen, that it, besides residential and commercial energy savings, we're actually going more green. Could you give us a brief example?
Correct. Community choice aggregation is the opportunity that's presented to all cities and counties to basically aggregate your community's load to purchase energy on their behalf. In that process, there is what you're in essence doing is buying the energy cheaper than what is sold at a retail basis, and that margin then is left for the community. So there's a couple things you can do with that margin, and that's implement local programs that fit your community's goals and your community's outcome as it relates to green energy. You can purchase green energy based on how you choose to buy that energy. You can also use those funds locally to implement energy programs, whether it be electrification of your transportation fleet, energy efficiency on your buildings, or community programs with your residents.
And what are the average expense savings on residential? Somewhere around 8 to 10%, or?
That's a choice of the council through your rate setting process. The cities that we work with have set a rate setting of about 3% savings for traditional customers, and then a CARES customer, which is an affordable rate, is somewhere around 20 to 25% savings.
So it enabled us to buy energy at a cheaper rate than what the standard rate is that we buy it for from Edison.
Correct. The history of CCAs, not only in Northern California and Southern California, is they're able to provide an energy rate that is less expensive than the investor-owned utility. In this case, PG&E up north, SCG&E south, and then Edison in our territories.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I just have a question. Where would that energy be coming from? CalEd?
The energy market is you choose to procure energy wherever you want to, right? That is a right of the city who's doing this. Typically, it comes from the CalISO, which is the California Independent System Operator, in which all energy comes from. But you can have independent energy generators that produce energy to put into the grid, but at the end of the day, it is all procured through CalISO.
Do they exist, the independent producers?
They do. There are a number from a different perspectives. You can buy the energy either directly from CalISO, which is called system power. You can directly contract with energy providers and solar systems, wind systems, and a number of different direct energy providers that allow you to actually identify where you're buying your energy from and what type of energy that is. That is, CCEA does that on your behalf, in this case, or does it on the behalf of the cities that we're operating with. But at the end of the day, that decision is yours.
All right. Thank you. You can take a seat.
Okay.
So I've been researching this for well over a year. It's nice to see it coming to this point, because we talked about getting bids on the feasibility study. What I want to make sure that I communicate is that I'm a little leery of potentially working with the city of Lancaster. I don't know enough about how it all works, and I have nothing in opposition to you all in any way. And I'm talking about more of when we actually try to figure out how we're going to buy power, right? And the concern that I have is that I don't have a vote. So in that case, I don't believe they're set up as a JPA, but I'm not 100% sure, so maybe you could help me understand that, Mr. Tomaino. But my understanding is that the city kind of controls all of it in that particular one, where in a JPA form, typically there would be like Orange County Fire Authority, there would be one member from each city. I think that in that particular case, it's just the city council that is making those decisions, but maybe you can help clarify that for me.
Mayor, members of the council, I believe that is the case. I believe Lancaster takes the lead, CCEA, on decisions regarding the operations of the CCA. They have other members, for example, including the city of San Jacinto, sure, but I do not believe that they're structured as a JPA.
Okay, and that's really my main concern, is that, if we put something in place, I want to make sure that we have not just a voice, but we have a vote, and can make some of the decisions on our own. I'm kind of always leery about contracting out with someone where we don't have an opportunity to do something. So, for instance, we contract out with the Sheriff's Department for police services, but we have a county supervisor that we get to vote for. Whereas if we contracted with the City of Irvine for police services, the Irvine City Council would be the one deciding a lot of things, and I'd have no vote in that particular case. So it's just kind of more philosophical, but that's really my comments. I'm very supportive of potentially forming a JPA with some of our neighboring cities, and in the staff report you mentioned a lot of our neighboring cities are considering it. Some have moved a step into the feasibility study portion. Some are still evaluating. Have any of the cities selected the same the same bidder with respect to the feasibility study? I'm just trying to figure out where we're going to be able to develop synergies and if there's any challenges that might arise from that.
Yeah, definitely. So I've spoken to a few cities. I don't believe that the cities that I've spoken to, which are Irvine, Mission Viejo, and Laguna Beach, have selected CCEA. They have different providers. But my understanding is that once we have our feasibility study, that it's a matter of sort of joining the data together and working on it collectively to understand the models, to see if there are any potential savings as a collective group.
Okay, and then from your perspective, the data is the data, and compatibility won't be a problem between the different providers out there for the feasibility study portion?
Correct. That is my understanding, yes.
Okay. All right.
All right. Well, I'm a little duller than my colleagues here, so you're going to have to explain this to me a little more clearly. And my blood pressure just rose about 30 degrees when I heard Councilman Robinson said the government's going to do it. So what exactly are we doing? So there's electricity out there, right? And we, the city, so somebody working for Deborah, we're going to set up an agency, or it's going to be our staff, and they're going to contract with somebody who gives energy out there, and all the 85,000 or 25,000 homes in Lake Forest, they're going to use that provider. Is that kind of what we're talking about?
It can be set up in a number of ways. You can set it up as an enterprise fund where it's run exclusively by the city. You can set it up as a JPA. You can contract with another city, or you can give the service out to another firm that performs this as a turnkey sort of consulting service. But the bottom line is the CCA is purchasing energy on behalf of the residents of the community at ideally prices that are lower than the investor-owned utility. In this case, it's Southern California Edison, to realize savings and create programs, as Mr. Cottle just mentioned.
Okay, so everybody would, well, now they have to buy from SoCal Edison. So instead, they'd have to buy from whoever it is we chose.
Yes, whoever the CCA purchases the energy from. That's typically done as a broader portfolio. So if you think of stocks, you can buy energy from a variety of different sources. So depending on the City Council's policy direction, for example, if you wanted the CCA to purchase green energy at the highest possible rate, then that would be the policy. If you wanted to realize economic savings, then we would look for energy at the lowest possible price. So it depends on the policy that's set forth by the City Council. But again, the CCA is purchasing energy on behalf of the residents of the city.
And all of this comes at a cost, either the cost of the staff that we employ to do this or the agency who charges us for them doing it, right?
Yes, there would be a cost in some capacity.
Okay.
There have been a number of conferences regarding this topic, so I've attended probably 3 myself. I think there's one coming up in just a few weeks. I know that one of the BBK attorneys, Ryan, is kind of helping a lot of people try to understand it, not advocating for one position or another, but helping cities understand it. So any of my colleagues that have any questions, I definitely encourage you all to take a look at that. Again, a lot of cities are looking at it. It's been going on in the Bay Area and then also in Lancaster now for a little while. Riverside County Council of Governments just moved forward themselves, and all of their staff that's involved was out speaking at the City of Irvine maybe about a month ago at the Orange County Council of Governments meeting where Councilmember Voights was with me. So, it's something that is definitely a good opportunity for us on a number of different levels if the feasibility study comes back saying that there's some significant cost savings. The potential for corporations is pretty significant. I mean, when you look at our electric bill, I have a pretty high one, and my electric bill can be $300 a month, right? So a 3% savings for me is $9. $9 is $9, but it's still, not much to write home about, right? So, but for a corporation, for instance, I'll use like a very high energy user. We have a few that are extremely high energy users. 3% savings could be something pretty significant to those businesses. So it could be a business attraction potential for us if we realize the savings that we're considering. It could be a business retention opportunity for us, and then it could benefit the entire community as a whole. Again, what was mentioned with the potential of buying clean energy wind or solar, some residents might be interested in that. Others might be interested in just the potential cost savings. So there's a lot of benefits. What we're talking about today is just moving forward with the feasibility study, and we approved that RFP a few months ago. But it's, again, I encourage all my colleagues that want to learn more about it to attend one of those seminars. It's worth the hour or two of investment.
And didn't the state of
busy.
Somewhere in the back of my brain, I'm recalling Enron, and that this sounds like Enron 20 years later. The Enron, you're familiar with that? They tried to aggregate the energy, and then suddenly the costs kept going up, and they were tied in, and then Enron it was all a paper thing, and it went bust. So it was presented seemingly the same way this is being presented, only wrapped a little more pretty 20 years later, or maybe it's 30 years later.
Yeah, I would probably let Carlo answer that question better, but I see it as being completely different from that. So it's not a private company out there looking to invest. It's what we'd be doing. Again, it's been going on in Northern California for, I want to say, about a decade. And I was just at a conference leading a panel at the Rethink Methane conference up in Sacramento about a month and a half ago. I can tell you the PG&E executives in the room were lamenting the fact that cities were moving this direction. They've been fighting it significantly. So when they're fighting against something, I usually see that as it's at least worth a study to try to figure out whether or not it makes sense. So, and we're not the first to the game here. Again, City of Lancaster has been doing it for a while, and Marin County, and I think Sonoma County as well. Can't remember all the areas off the top of my head, but I don't know if you have anything further to add on that.
All I would add, Mayor and Council, is that this is really just the first step in the process. What you're trying to do here is work with a company that's done these feasibility studies in the past and determine whether or not there's a benefit to the community at all using the load data and performing that kind of analysis. That comes back to you as a council with a full report, and at that point you might decide to want to form a CCA to put the business plan together or not. It's your decision. So what this action does this evening is it awards a contract to CCEA just for the feasibility study, and then there's also a supplemental budget appropriation because we don't have this in our 17-18 budget.
Yeah, well, I know, and when you say it's just a study, but it's a $60,000 study, so it's not a $5,000 study we wouldn't be sitting here talking about. But at $60,000, we're talking. And I guess I'm going to have to abstain. I just don't know enough about it personally to be able to move forward, but sounds like my colleagues do.
No, I kind of agree with you, Mr. Mayor. There's something about it just doesn't settle well with me, and I'm not sure what it is. I think I need more information. From what Mr. Robinson said, it's there. I just need to find more about it. So I'm not sure where I'm going to come down on it, but I'm not comfortable with it, frankly.
We can move ahead with the vote in any event.
I'll just move that we table the item.
Yeah, and I'll second that. But the fact that I think that the trend out there is going, and that the cities that are utilizing are getting substantial savings, not only for the residents, for their businesses. And so, as Councilman Robinson said, not only as an incentive for new businesses looking to move into an area with lower energy rates is a huge thing. And then the surrounding cities that we will have to be competing with, Irvine, Mission Viejo, are all moving in that direction. So for this time, I'll support. Would you like, Madam City?
Oh, well, I was going to suggest if this is a matter of preferring to have more information, we could have a session we can invite Ryan Barron from BBK to come over and do a presentation for the council, or we could set up one-on-one meetings with council members who would like more information to provide that to you if that's something the council would desire.
You know, the thing that would convince me was if one of our sister cities here had done a feasibility and it turned out, yeah, that's great, and they were going ahead. So then that would convince me that it does work in this area and we should hop on the bandwagon. How far are they along in their feasibility studies?
So there's a few cities that are working on this, as was mentioned. I spoke to the city of Irvine, and they're looking to award a contract in May, and the feasibility study takes about 4 to 5 months. The city of Laguna Beach, I believe, has a draft report, but they're probably going to release that in the next 3 or 4 months. And the city of Mission Viejo is getting ready to sign the non-disclosure agreement, and they should have their study done in the next 3 or 4 months. So the point is, in the next 3 or 4 months, we may have cities that have come out with their own feasibility studies.
I think that's a good point, and it really depends on what we consider to be local. So, and to use as an example, so if my concern is that if we wait until all of those cities have completed their feasibility study and then we try to form a JPA, that we're kind of holding things up. So, you know, it just, as far as being a part of that JPA, it starts to get established and then you're trying to add on later on. Like as an example, when the fire authority formed, it had a certain number of cities, and then it's had cities join since then. Santa Ana, I think, is the most recent. And so, you know, it's always just a little bit more challenging. I think the first thing that would help would just be, you know, either doing a meeting with the entire city council or one-on-one. Like I said, I've sat through numerous of these, so I'm not sure that I'd learn a whole lot of information, but I'd probably learn something new. So I'm willing to spend the time, but if you all would prefer one-on-ones, that's fine too.
You know, it sounds like you've done your homework, and we can't all know everything about everything. You know, we all have our strengths and our weaknesses, and so this is an area in which I'm woefully ignorant, and so I'm not going to oppose it. I mean, you say you've done your homework, and I believe you, and it sounds like you know that you both have done homework. If you guys want to go ahead and vote for it, I'm just saying, me personally, I can't vote for it because I'm not able to. But if you feel it's that important, you can put it forward tonight, and you know, whatever it is, 202, you can move forward. I just don't know enough to endorse it, but I trust the both of you that you say you've done your homework. You sound like you've done your homework. If you want to move forward with it, I'm not going to oppose it. I'm saying I don't know enough to sign on to.
Your Honor, I'd prefer to do what the city manager said and have either a joint meeting with the council, preferable joint, because Mr. Robinson and Mr. Boyce can bring their information to that meeting also. Take up council time for it, but that's what I would like to see done, to get more information, more comfortable with it, more warm and fuzzy.
You know, I'm confident that we will be moving in this direction, but just out of knowledge for the rest of the council, that you feel comfortable in the direction we're going, I think that it's pretty prudent for us to, the motion to be made in the second, to table it, but the fact is to set up a meeting with BBK, Ryan with BBK, and have them come out and speak to us on the benefits of this.
So I'll include that in my motion, that we have a meeting with the entire council, possibly a special meeting, but however you deem fit, and that we bring in whatever experts necessary, be they from BBK or anywhere else in Orange County, Riverside County, maybe even the folks from City of Lancaster or some of the other providers might be interested in being a part of that. So I'll leave that up to you.
Just one last question. Typically, to put these proposals together, how long do they take? I think someone said 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, so once the load data is received from the utility, SCE, it typically takes about 3 to 4 months for the consultant to prepare the feasibility study.
Thank you.
All right, so there's a motion and a second. Do you want to read us back the motion so we're sure what we're voting on?
Sure. Councilmember Robinson moved to table the item and schedule a meeting with the entire council and bring in whatever experts are necessary to educate the council about community choice aggregation.
Sounds great. Okay, vote.
That motion carries with Mayor Pro Tem Basil absent from the dais.
Item number 15, selection of a delegate for the Southern California Association of Governments, a.k.a. SCAG, which is a terrible regional conference and General Assembly meeting, submitted by a city clerk.
We have nothing further beyond the staff report tonight.
I've gone in the past, Mayor. If you so choose, I will go on behalf of the city.
Yeah, so you want to go? Sure. Anybody else want to go? No? Okay. Sure.
Do we have to vote on that?
I'm having more fun that day having like a root canal, so.
Yes, we do need to vote on that.
Okay. He makes the motion, I'll second.
That motion carries with Mayor Pro Tem Basil absent from the dais.
Okay, item 6. Go ahead.
Could I make that motion for myself, or did someone else have to make that? Okay. Thank you for the second, Mayor.
Item 16 is postponed. City Manager's report.
Mayor and members of the council, one of our community members, Bob Holtzclaw, brought this up earlier, but I wanted to let the council know we had our HOA roundtable today, and it went quite well. We had representatives from several HOAs, and they asked a variety of questions. We had a short presentation, but we really left most of the time available. It was 90 minutes long. I think we had an hour's worth of discussion. And so we thought it was positive. We're emailing all of those HOAs a questionnaire to follow up, so we will share that with you. But we think it went very well, and so we're now working on how often we should hold these, because it appeared from just the comments we got after the roundtable that the representatives found it valuable, and as staff, we found it valuable to know what their concerns were. So that concludes my comments tonight.
Okay, City Council comments. Colonel Cagley.
Just a couple of quick ones. One, I appreciate what all the public had to say about the potential of a censure consideration, but it's really not our decision. If a citizen makes a complaint, we have to listen to the citizens. That's who we represent. And whether we're comfortable with it or uncomfortable with it is not really relevant, because they have to bring it forward. The second thing is, I hate kicking the can down the road and just playing it to the next meeting. I realize we have to because of the Mayor Pro Tem's absence. But let's not become a congressional committee and carry these things on for a year and a half. Let's get a resolution and get it done with. That's all I want to say.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Robinson.
Yeah. With some of the neighborhood park improvements, I've had a few emails from residents that are concerned about some of the things that are potentially occurring there. We had the group from Montgomery last week. I also heard from a few about the Rancho Serrano Park, and so I'd like to talk with staff offline on that and just try to see what kind of communication you all are getting. We usually see the alpha tickets when they come directly to the city council, but I don't know if what we're getting other than that, so I'd be really curious to see what kind of feedback we're getting right now. So maybe we can talk about that in the next week or so. And that's all I have.
Councilman Bovoit.
Some of my neighbors came up to me and talked about the potential of the dog run at the Montgomery. they stated that some of the neighbors there claimed that they didn't get notification on that. So I was wondering, on the notification for those meetings, how many houses or how many feet away from the park should we contact?
I'm actually not sure the surrounding area, but we did flood the neighborhoods with our marketing team here over with the door hangers, along with Facebook postings and the booths from there, along with the banners at each of those parks, informing them of the community workshops and the online surveys.
Okay, just we want to clarify to them and say that there was research.
Oh, there was definitely.
Okay, all right. With that, I too attended for a short time the meeting. I left just as question and answering, so the good stuff started. I was amazed on how fast the meeting went up to that point. So I see that it was backloaded, is what it was. But it was a good turnout of our neighborhoods. They came out, and there's so much going on, whether it be the shot hole borer or rats. There's a lot going on that affect one neighborhood will affect other neighborhoods adjacent to it. So communication among our neighborhoods is very important. So good job. Thank you. Nothing else.
Mr. Councilman Voights, I just want to remind you about, you said something about Sanctuary City.
Oh, yes, and I have it on my notes right here. I'd like to agendize bringing back a resolution in support of Los Alamitos in their resolution, in a resolution form, and bring that back for discussion at City Council meeting to support the Los Alamitos City Council Sanctuary State Challenge.
I'll provide consensus. All right, thank you again for being here. We will adjourn tonight and take 30 seconds to pray for the well-being of Councilman Joe Rainey.
Joe
Rainey from Laguna Woods. If you bow your heads. Thank you, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.